Welcome to HRY Chronicles. At the sum of 1,000 subscribers, I'll post a special series just for you. Subscribe now. The neon lights of Port Authority's most notorious bar painted everything in a sickly purple hue, but even that couldn't diminish the impact of Darla's yellow dress. It was the kind of yellow that screamed defiance, a solar flare in a universe of darkness. I watched her move through the crowd, all 7 feet of her wrapped in that barely there fabric, and couldn't help but marvel at how she made every other being in the bar look like background radiation. The dress bunched provocatively at her hip, revealing legs that seemed to go on forever. But it wasn't just her height that drew attention, it was the way she moved, like liquid mercury with a predator's grace that made even the most hardened spacers step aside. Her emerald eyes caught the light like a cat's, reflecting an intelligence that seemed almost too sharp, too focused. I sat at our corner table, nursing a drink that glowed an unnatural blue, watching the scene unfold through the grimy bar mirrors. Next to Darla's towering presence, I looked almost comically small, dark skin, shaved head, wearing a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than most of these dock workers made in a month. We made an odd pair, the giantess and the doll, as some of the regulars had taken to calling us. The screens above the bar kept replaying my tournament fight from yesterday, and I could feel the hatred rolling off the other patrons in waves. Humans weren't exactly welcome in this sector of space right now, and I'd given them plenty of reasons to despise me. The footage showed my bioconstruct tearing through a Dahl machine like it was made of tissue paper, leaving its jockey a trembling mess in the control pod. The neural feedback must have been excruciating. "They're calling you the butcher of Bay 17, Darla purred, sliding back into her seat. Her voice carried undertones that made my skin tingle. She leaned close, her breath warm against my ear. "I think they're scared of you." I watched her hand creep up my thigh, her touch leaving trails of fire on my skin. "Are you?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral despite the electricity building between us. She laughed, a sound like crystal breaking. "Terrified," she whispered, but her fingers continued their upward journey, bunching the fabric of my dress. Behind us, a group of one of the Dahl client races were getting rowdy. Their translators were off, but I didn't need to understand their language to recognize threats when I heard them. In the mirror, I could see them rising from their table, all sharp angles and bioluminescent patches pulsing with aggression. The moment tensed like a coiled spring, but then I felt it, 2 phantom fingers brushing my cheek through the mesh, Jayla's signal, clear as starlight. A warning. I started to pull away from Darla, catching a flash of disappointment in those emerald eyes. Then came Dennis's more insistent scratch at the back of my neck, and I knew playtime was over. "I have to go," I said, standing smoothly. The Groll were only 3 tables away now, their bioluminescence patterns shifting to attack configurations. Darla reached for my hand, but I was already moving, timing my steps perfectly with Jayla's approach. The shuttle swooped in with surgical precision, and I stepped aboard without breaking stride, leaving behind a bar full of frustrated aliens and one very intriguing woman. The ride back to the arena complex was silent, but I could feel Dennis and Jayla's presence in the mesh, their concern mixing with amusement. Dennis sent me the taste of bitter coffee, his way of saying, "I told you so." Jayla responded with the sensation of warm sunshine on bare skin, her version of, "At least you had fun." The tournament complex loomed ahead, a massive structure of curved metal and crystalline viewing panels that dominated the skyline. In daylight, it reflected the system's twin suns like a massive mirror. At night, like now, it pulsed with its own inner light, a beacon drawing in competitors and spectators from across known space. We docked at our private bay, and I made my way through the maintenance corridors to the black chamber. The nameplate read Ripley, a reference lost on most non-humans, but it always made me smile. Inside, my true form waited. The chamber itself was a marvel of human engineering. No flashy tech, no neural interfaces, just pure biological innovation. As I approached, the environmental seals hissed, releasing clouds of cryogenic vapor. Through the clearing mist, I could see her, my real body. Imagine a tyrannosaur redesigned by someone with a love for efficiency and a complete disregard for conventional aesthetics. 6 tentacles sprouted where arms should be, each ending in bone-claw pincers that could slice through reinforced hull plating. The head housed an array of sensory organs that gave me full-spectrum, 360-degree vision. No technology except the mandatory lace, those were the rules. But we humans had never needed much tech anyway. As I prepared for tomorrow's fight, my thoughts drifted back to Darla. There was something about her that didn't quite add up. The way she moved, the precision of her touches, the almost too perfect timing of her appearances. In my experience, coincidences in tournament season usually meant trouble. A soft chime interrupted my thoughts. The pre-fight inspection team had arrived early. Through the chamber's sensors, I could see them approaching, and this time they'd brought media. I sighed internally. Being both jockey and representative meant I couldn't dodge these publicity shows. The inspection team filed in, led by a Tier 1 official whose species I couldn't quite place. Behind them came the media circus, their recording devices hovering like curious insects. At least they'd brought a translator this time. The questions started immediately, a barrage of curiosity mixed with barely concealed hostility. "Your last 3 victories have been spectacular," the translator rendered, a serpentine reporter's hiss into flat standard. "Some are suggesting your methods are unnecessarily brutal. How do you respond?" I maintained my professional smile, even as I felt Ripley stirring in the chamber behind me. In combat sports, effectiveness is never unnecessary. Each of my opponents had the same opportunity to end the fight quickly. Another reporter, this one a floating gas bubble contained in a mechanical shell, pulsed with different colors as it spoke. "There are rumors that humans have found a way to circumvent the neural lace requirements. Your control seems unusual." That was getting dangerously close to sensitive territory. I deflected with practiced ease. "We humans may be Tier 4, but we've always had our own way of doing things. The neural lace requirements are met and verified before every match." Movement at the back of the crowd caught my eye. Darla had somehow gained access to the inspection area, still wearing that yellow dress that seemed to defy physics. She leaned against the wall, watching me with those predatory eyes, a slight smile playing on her lips. Something about her presence made my skin prickle with both desire and danger. The inspection itself was thorough, as always. They scanned Ripley for unauthorized modifications, checked the neural lace connections, and verified the biological components. I sat through it all, maintaining my composed exterior while my mind raced. Having Darla here, in this secure area, meant either she had high-level clearance or very good infiltration skills. Neither option was comforting. When the all-clear finally came, I felt the familiar surge of anticipation. The restraints in the black chamber hissed back, and Ripley began to move. The media crowd shuffled backward, their recording devices capturing every moment as my true form emerged. The sensation of hot, pre-oxygenated blood pumping through enhanced muscles never got old. Each movement was a symphony of power and precision, tentacles unfurling, claws testing the air, sensory organs drinking in every detail of the room. We left the non-essential organs in the chamber. In the ring, we needed to be lean and lethal. Through my enhanced senses, I caught Darla's reaction. Her pupils dilated, her breath quickened, and her body temperature spiked noticeably. She wasn't afraid, she was aroused. The realization sent a thrill through both my forms. Jailer's shuttle arrived with perfect timing, hovering at the loading dock like a patient predator. As we boarded, I caught one last glimpse of Darla. She blew me a kiss, but there was something calculated in the gesture, something that made my combat instincts tingle. The inspection team filed out, leaving me alone with my thoughts and Darla's lingering presence. Tomorrow's fight would be against a Tier 2 aquatic. Their construct had been given the media-friendly name Carnivore. Through my enhanced senses, I studied the pre-fight footage playing on the screens. Carnivore was visually impressive but fundamentally flawed. Under ultraviolet, I could see where grafted stripes cut off abruptly at the arms, likely replacements from previous tournament losses. Infrared revealed old scarring along its armored neck, probably from bone insertions. Most telling was how its sensor patches mimicked its jockey's features, a common limitation of neural lace architecture. The construct was shorter than Ripley, but had cleverly skirted the biped class rules with a mid-limb that functioned suspiciously like an extra leg. As I watched it calibrate, spinning atop that mid-limb to thunderous applause, I noted how tool-assisted the movements looked. Local favorite, perhaps? Unlike my opponents, I didn't need calibration time. Instead, I used these moments to attune my senses. Feeling the high-pressure blood coursing through enhanced arteries, I let my tentacles unfurl in a mesmerizing display, pincers snapping out a rhythm that the crowd instinctively matched. The collective anticipation built to a crescendo as the referee raised his flag. At the drop, I closed distance with practiced efficiency. A quick two-step brought me within range, and I lashed Carnivore's snout with a tentacle before dancing back. The jockey looked stunned. It was just a probe, designed to make him cautious and slow. Carnivore bounded forward, trying to leverage its mid-limb advantage. I ducked under the claws, dropping a shoulder and weaving two tentacles into a whip that caught it under one limb. The construct staggered, but maintained its footing. With fluid grace, I pivoted into its blind spot and delivered a devastating back kick, using my tentacles to control the momentum. The crowd's roar was deafening, but through my enhanced senses I caught a familiar scent. Darla had positioned herself mid-terrain, almost directly in my line of sight. She traded her yellow dress for a loose, hooded kimono that seemed to emphasize rather than conceal. The garment was cinched at her waist but gaped open at the top, her skin glistening under the arena lights. What happened next nearly cost me the match. Darla's presence triggered a sensory overlap. The memory of her delicate touch from the bar merged with the electric warning of danger. Carnivore seized the moment of distraction, rushing me from behind. Two sets of razor-sharp claws locked onto my shoulders, its weight distributed perfectly across 3 limbs. Its jaws clamped down on my neck, tearing away crucial sensory patches. My tentacles thrashed, seeking purchase on its armored body, but found none. My vision tunneled, focused solely on Darla, who watched with an intensity that seemed almost predatory. Desperation bred innovation. I flung my tentacles toward the ropes, gripped hard and pulled. Carnivore's jaws ripped away chunks of flesh, its claws carving deep furrows in my shoulders. Arterial spray misted the air before automatic biological systems sealed the wounds. This was what I was made for, what we had made ourselves for. I kicked off the ground as my opponent stumbled forward, then drove both feet back with savage force, claws extended. Carnivore crashed onto its back, and I straddled it just ahead of the mid-limb. 2 pairs of tentacles controlled its thrashing limbs, while the others systematically destroyed its sensory organs. Then, with a primal growl that resonated through the arena, I crunched through bone and tore its head clean off. The neural feedback made the jockey convulse in his mist pod. In the stands, Darla watched with an expression I couldn't quite read. Was it disappointment? Anticipation? The kimono had fallen completely open now, but her eyes remained locked on mine, calculating and cold. The referee guided my human form into the ring, raising my arm in victory. The cheers were genuine this time. Even those who hated humans couldn't deny the spectacle they'd witnessed. Through the mesh, Dennis sent me the scent of ozone, his favorite celebration signal, while Jayla shared a borrowed memory of gentle grooming. But something nagged at my combat instincts. Darla had disappeared from the stands, leaving behind only a lingering scent of anticipation and danger. The tournament was far from over, and I had a feeling the real fight hadn't even begun. The post-fight media circus buzzed with the usual questions, but I kept my answers professional and brief. Through my enhanced senses, I tracked Darla's movements through the complex. She seemed to know exactly where the security blind spots were, moving with too much precision for a casual observer. "Your control over the bioconstruct is remarkable," a floating gas bubble reporter pulsed. "Some suggest it exceeds normal neural lace capabilities." I deflected with practiced ease. Humanity has always found its own solutions. The words tasted bitter. We'd sacrificed so much to find those solutions. After the interviews, Darla appeared on her cycle again, wearing a translucent plunge-cut robe that left little to the imagination. My human form's movements were still stiff and uncoordinated from the neural feedback, but she helped me mount behind her, pulling my arms around her waist. Her skin radiated heat, and her scent was intoxicating, perfectly engineered to appeal to human pheromone receptors. The trailer was dark when we arrived. Ripley's black chamber occupied again, status lights providing minimal illumination. Darla pressed a finger to my lips before I could speak, her touch electric. The darkness felt appropriate, intimate, and dangerous. She peeled away her robe with deliberate slowness, revealing skin that seemed to glow in the dim light. Her movements were precise, calculated, yet somehow still sensual. I let her undress me, feeling vulnerable and excited as the cool air from the AC raised goosebumps on my bare skin. Her fingers found me, building a rhythm that made my breath catch. I opened a channel in the mesh, broadcasting the sensation to Dennis and Jayla. Not weird, just data, like Dennis's beloved FTL transitions. I crested hard under her expert touch, body arching. Then came the knife, sliding between my ribs with surgical precision, finding my heart as if guided by anatomical markers, which, of course, it was. Her camouflage flickered as she stepped back, momentarily revealing the distinctive horns and gills of a Dahl assassin. "I know what you are," I managed, as my remote body began shutting down. The lights blazed to full brightness, overwhelming her active camouflage. "You humans," she sneered. "So audacious, so self-absorbed, so fragile, so low-tech." The last word betrayed her, the careful neutral accent slipping. Blood trickled from my mouth as my body cooled, but my senses were sharpening, muscles coiling, blood fizzing with activation compounds. "We never mastered neural linking," I said, voice strengthening. "Our senses, like smell, touch, are easier. We make great sex bots, so much better than VR." I smiled through the blood. "But never mind sharing. Never enough for FTL. Our science took a different route." The knife slashed across my throat, then crushed my skull against the deck. My remote body lay still, but not quite silent. The remaining ganglia injected triumph into my voice. "I'm not in there, Dahl. We humans chose a different way. We became our machines." The black chamber's seals released with a soft chime, and I emerged in my true form, tentacles unfurling in absolute control. Darla dropped into a combat stance, her perfect human facade abandoned, but against a fully awakened bioconstruct, she had no chance at all. The aftermath was both beautiful and brutal. Darla moved with the lethal grace of a trained Dahl assassin, her knives glinting in the harsh light, but she had made a critical mistake. She had assumed, like so many others, that humans were simple, predictable creatures bound by the limitations of neural technology. My tentacles filled the confined space of the trailer, moving with a fluidity that no neural lace could match. One caught her first knife hand, crushing it with precisely calculated force. Another wrapped around her waist, lifting her off the ground as her camouflage systems failed completely, revealing her true Dahl form. "The Dahls sent their best assassin," I said, my voice resonating through modified vocal cords. "But you never understood what you were hunting." She spat something in Dahl that the translators wouldn't touch. Her free hand tried to drive a second knife into one of my tentacles, but the blade shattered against enhanced bioarmor. "You thought we were primitive," I continued, additional tentacles securing her remaining limbs. "That our Tier 4 status meant we were weak, but we didn't need neural interfaces or mind-sharing technology. We found a different path." Through the mesh I felt Dennis and Jayla's presence. They had known, of course. They had been tracking Darla since she first appeared at the bar. The assassination attempt was expected. The Dahl couldn't accept that a primitive species had outmaneuvered them in the tournament. "Your neural lace technology is impressive," I said, bringing her face close to mine. "But it's just an interface, a way to control something external. We humans went further. We didn't want to control our machines. We became them." Understanding finally dawned in her emerald eyes. The human form she'd seduced wasn't a controller or a pilot. It was a remote, a disposable shell. The real me had always been in the black chamber, in this enhanced body that represented humanity's true evolution. "The tournament," she gasped. "It was all a trap?" I let out a sound that might have been a laugh. "The tournament was just a stage. We needed to show the galaxy what we could do, make the Dahl nervous enough to send someone like you, and now we have proof of your assassination attempt, broadcast live through the mesh to every diplomatic channel in the sector." Jayla's shuttle was already docking, and I could sense security forces converging on our location. The political fallout would be spectacular. A Tier 1 species caught trying to assassinate a Tier 4 competitor. The tournament's carefully maintained neutrality would be shattered. "You played your part beautifully," I told Darla, genuinely appreciative of her skill. "But the game was rigged from the start. Humanity's path was always going to be different from yours." As the security teams burst in, I released her gently to their custody. She stood proud, even in defeat, her assassin's dignity intact, but her eyes never left my true form. Finally seeing what humans had become, not users of machines, but machines themselves. Biological and mechanical, merged into something entirely new. Through the mesh, Dennis sent me the taste of victory, sweeter than any FTL transition. Jayla shared the sensation of dawn breaking over an alien world. We had won more than a tournament match. We had shown the galaxy that humanity's primitive path had led us somewhere they never expected. The next day's headlines would rock the political structure of known space, but for now I simply savored the moment. In the end, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about showing the galaxy that sometimes the lowest-tier species could be the most dangerous, not because of their technology, but because they had chosen to become something entirely new. 3 standard months after the tournament, I stood at the observation deck of humanity's first Tier 2 diplomatic station. The upgrade had been swift after the Dahl assassination attempt became public. Funny how attempted murder could accelerate political processes. Below, the gas giant's swirling storms created patterns that reminded me of Dahl's camouflage systems. She was serving her sentence in a neutral zone facility, though rumor had it she'd become quite the celebrity among the prison population. The first Dahl assassin to fail a mission and live to tell about it. Incoming transmission. Dennis's presence brushed against my consciousness through the mesh. The Groll are requesting independent status from the Dahl Confederation. I smiled, watching a shuttle dock with perfect precision Jailer's work unmistakably. The political landscape was shifting faster than anyone had predicted. Our little tournament performance had sparked something unexpected. Other species were beginning to question the traditional hierarchy of technological advancement. The aquatics are also expressing interest in our biological engineering programs, Jailer added, sharing a sensation of warm currents and deep-sea pressure. They're particularly interested in how we achieved consciousness transfer without neural lace technology. Of course they were. The ability to truly become our machines, rather than just control them, had turned out to be humanity's greatest innovation. While other species focused on external interfaces and neural links, we had quietly evolved into something entirely new. Through my enhanced senses, I could feel the station's rhythms. The pulse of life support systems, the hum of gravity generators, the subtle vibrations of thousands of beings going about their lives. Among them were more humans in their true forms now, no longer hiding their enhanced bodies behind remote shells. New tournament registration is open, Dennis mentioned casually, but I caught the undertone of anticipation in his signal. Think they'll change the rules this time? I asked, already knowing the answer. The sporting community was still debating how to classify human participants. Were we pilots, constructs, or something entirely different? They can try. Jailer's amusement came through as a cascade of sparkling lights in the mesh, but they'll have to catch us first. I extended a tentacle to touch the observation window, watching my reflection, a perfect fusion of biological and mechanical innovation. Somewhere out there, other species were beginning to experiment with our methods, trying to understand how a Tier 4 species had managed to transform itself so completely. But they were missing the point. It was never about the technology, it was about the choice to become something new, to evolve, not through external control but through fundamental transformation. Humanity hadn't climbed the technological ladder, we'd built our own. Another round? I asked my companions, feeling their eager responses through the mesh. After all, we had a reputation to maintain. The species that rewrote the rules of evolution itself, the ones who chose to become their machines. And somewhere in a prison cell, I knew Darla was watching, finally understanding what she had helped reveal to the galaxy. Sometimes the most dangerous species aren't the ones with the most advanced technology, but the ones willing to change what it means to be alive. The tournament season was approaching again, and this time everyone would be watching to see what humanity would become next. If you enjoyed this thrilling tale of human evolution and interstellar intrigue, don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe. Turn on the notification bell to stay updated on more stories from humanity's bold journey through the cosmos. Want to see more of our protagonists' adventures in the tournament circuit, or curious about other stories from this universe? Leave a comment below telling us what you'd like to see next. Until our next adventure in the cosmos,